Good morning. It's time for another pre-market pulse game with yours truly, Dex, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave Price Trigger Reports. All right, so this has been a pretty wild week, to say the least. There's been a lot of things going on. I have been swamped with work. I've been in the lab, a lot of things going on. I had personal stuff going. I mean, just so much going on. And then we got these voting shenanigans taking place as we speak. It's just a never ending barrage going on right now. But I want to tell you something. Do not be discouraged, ladies and gentlemen, because at some point, this too shall pass. It'll be over and done with, and then we can move on. But until then, yeah, we got to put up with it. And let's be honest, too. We already knew going into this what was going to happen. We knew that these elections were going to be rife with controversy because they were already telling us long beforehand to expect it. They told us to expect the foolishness. That's right, folks. Remember, they were preparing you. I'm telling my people not to concede. So both sides are saying no matter what happens, you're not going to concede the election. It's going to court. It's going to the Supreme Court. It's going here. It's going there. It's going everywhere. Meanwhile, there's really not been a 24-hour news cycle regarding the election like you would have expected. We would have expected just nonstop. But they've been talking about everything else, every which way, except for really the elections. The information about the elections is trickling in a controlled manner the way they want it to. They want this thing to go on as long as they can. And in the meantime, excuse me, they have been exposed. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The deep state, the shadow government figures, whatever you want to call them, we'll just call them the entity. The entity has been exposed yet again. Tons of information coming out, exposing the behind the scenes working, lurking in the shadows. And for the most part, people are just numb to it. And I think it's for a variety of reasons. Number one, they have successfully reprogrammed, altered the internet in such a way that even if it's just some low level truth you're looking for on whatever topic, they made it so that it's even harder now for the uninitiated to find what they're looking for. And if you do so happen to find what you're looking for, expect there to be tags and things attached to it, like fake news and whatever title or way they can try to get you to stay away from it. They have a lot of warning signs up. Warning, fake news, warning, this, that, and this and that. They have been very successful, just as the mainstream media was dying a horrible death due to internet news and alternative media sources. They came up with an ingenious plan, and it worked. They said, hey, we still have the power. We control these networks. So let's do this. Let's go on the air, 24-hour news cycle blitz, and we're going to do it for the next 6 months, 12 months, however long it takes. We're going to start claiming that the alternative news sources is fake news. If we can call them fake news, and that way it will automatically legitimize ourselves. We don't have to call ourselves real news. We just call them fake news. And the hearer will be confused enough to believe that we're the real news source. So that's how we can survive and keep from dying a horrible death to the alternative media. Then, while they were doing that, they said, let's insulate ourselves. Let's go ahead and create some alternative news sources of our own. Let's buy up the most popular ones, and then let's also add some little ones so that everything comes back to us. That way we still control the narrative and we control what people hear and see and believe. We'll tell them what to believe because we will have our own alternative news sources. Then, of course, as you know, about a decade ago, the federal government started having their own bots to go around and hack alternative media sites and to troll them in their chats and to say all types of outrageous things so they could blame it on, you got it, the alternative news sources. They could call them racist because all up in the chat discussions, you got racist comments going on, outrageous comments, and then that would further marginalize alternative media. And there you go. There's another victory for the mainstream media because that's what the U.S. government is masterful at, and that's infiltrating. They infiltrate every organization in order so they can co-opt it, control it, or bring it down. So what they do is what they do with foreign governments. It's been our foreign policy going back 30 plus years, and that's just what you're seeing now. The next paradigm that they put up before you, making it impossible for you to do anything about it, is once again, they've given you what to be concerned about. They created a fake ground movement so it could appear to be a ground movement, but it's not organic. They created revolts. They've created what they want is a big race war. So they created the means to do that with Black Lives Matter and Antifa. They found some people that were willing to sell out their race, sell out their nationality, sell out everything, and defeat everything that indigenous people have worked hard for to overcome, and they've just knocked you back 500 years. So thinking that you're supporting Black Lives Matter, it's not. Remember, our government is expert at taking everyday words and phrases and redefining them. So again, they're not going to come out and say, this is a death panel. No, they're going to say, you know what, this is the right to life panel. They're not going to say this is a racist anarchist movement. No, they're just going to call it Black Lives Matter, okay, which is a pro-government organization. Defund the police make you think they're revolting against the police. No, they're not. They're not revolting against police. They want you to agree to do away with police by constantly showing you footage and video of so-called indigenous people being shot by police. So you think that this is some situation that's just so over the top. It's just, you know, people with darker melanin, with more melanin, darker complexion people are just being shot down like dogs in the street by police. They want you to think that the Ku Klux Klan has changed out their white robes for blue ones and badges, police uniforms. So they'll have you to believe that. And then, of course, the rioting and the looting all taking place in democratic regions, and nothing's being done about it. They're controlling. This is basically a military coup, and they're using, rioting to do it. All right, so to make it look like it's organic and homegrown, but there's nothing organic and homegrown about George Soros and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funding these organizations so that they can force their New World Order upon you by making you beg for it, making you beg to defund the police. What happens when you defund the police? Does policing go away? Of course not. No, that's when they bring in their militarized policing, and that's going to be even worse. Talking about people getting shot down, you ain't seen that yet. Wait until you see the Gestapo. Wait until you see the brown shirts. Wait until you see the blue UN helmets come in, the peacekeepers. Wait until you see all of that. They got something for you lined up, and you begged for it. You asked for it. All it took was a little bit of trickery, and you fell for it. Even now, the race has come down to blue and red yet again. Oh, how original. What an original script. How come it didn't come down to an independent or some other party? Why is it always the blue party or the red party? The blue party or the red party? Our entire judicial system, our entire political system is corrupt to the core. Our corporations are corrupt to the core. Our city councils, our states, our local government is corrupt to the core. Everything that is done in the West is corrupt to the core. Everything is corrupt. Think about it. Who in their right mind would spend tens of millions of dollars running for a political office that may only pay you $70,000 a year, $200,000 a year? So you spend $30 million to make $200,000 a year. Really? Why is it that every politician, when they leave office, they leave richer than when they arrived in office? Why is that? Because of corruption, because of kickbacks, because of backdoor deals. And then it's funny with the mudslinging. They'll say, this Republican, the Republicans are the big oil industry has their hands all up in their pockets and they're controlled by that. But isn't that the same organizations that funded the blue team as well? Who financed the blue team? Who's behind the blue team? Corporations, banks. They back both parties. The banking industry backs both parties. The oil industry backs both parties. The same bankers that helped Bush get in office are the same ones that got Barack Obama in office. Red team, blue team. It's public theater, bread and circus. You'll never see any other team. Why is there no other team? Why is there no independent? Why is there no independent? Because it's about power. Red team, blue team. That is all that will ever be allowed. You will not have an independent president, ever. And that's by design. And the corruption continues, even the whole green movement, even after it was exposed to be a lie. People still hold on to it as if it's the gospel truth. Man-made global warming, been debunked a million ways which to Sunday, and they still hold on to it as truth. Macroevolution, exposed every which way to Sunday. They still tell you that you came from a primordial ooze and the dinosaurs walked the earth. See, it doesn't matter. We've gotten to a point now where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's out there standing in the middle of the street with the bullhorn, warning you, saying, warning, warning, warning. It doesn't matter. That person's being ignored as a nuisance. Doesn't matter how much truth you're telling, because the spirit of deception that is alive and well is a powerful one. It is powerful, ladies and gentlemen. And human beings have proven that no matter what, they're going to cling to the corruption. No matter what. And it doesn't even matter if stuff gets exposed anymore. It's just going to go nowhere. You could come with breaking news right now. They could show your favorite candidate, Biden or Trump, slapping, pimp smacking an old woman down to the ground. And you know what they'll say? Oh, that was a fake video. That was part of a movie that's coming up. Oh no, that was a Saturday Night Live skit. That's all that was. No, that was CGI. No, that really didn't happen. Nope. And they could just dismiss it away. Fake news. Everyone say, hey, you know what? That's fine and that's good enough for me. They say it's fake news. I guess it's fake news. But then you realize, hey, no, that was on our grandmama that he smacked down. Grandmama come home with the big handprint on the side of her face. You won't believe what happened to me when I went to the store. Joe Biden / Donald Trump smacked me across the face and I fell to the ground. Mama, I think maybe you just forgot to take your medication, because that was already shown to be fake news. It's part of a movie that's coming out, CGI. You don't see the handprint across my face? Mom, come on now. Come on. Let's go lay down. You need some rest. I think it's time to put mama in a home. She's just losing it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we are as a nation today. It doesn't matter. The truth can be put right in your face, and you still will not be able to believe it. And this is where we are this morning, ladies and gentlemen. USPS Inspector General contacts Project Veritas over backdated ballot allegations in no other place than Michigan. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Michigan. Michigan. The USPS Inspector General's office has contacted Project Veritas following their report from a postal employee who says he was instructed to collect ballots after the election cutoff so they could be backdated. All right. Do you hear anyone talking about that? No. Nope. Media blackout. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want to deal with it. Then they say they're aware of this and it falls under their jurisdiction. They're assessing whether to investigate. Whether to investigate, letting you know that they may not even investigate. They don't even care anymore, ladies and gentlemen. A U.S. Postal Service employee from Michigan has reportedly turned whistleblower, telling Project Veritas that his supervisor instructed mail carriers to collect and segregate new ballot envelopes received after the election cutoff so that they could be fraudulently backdated with a November 3rd postmark. This is why they didn't want anyone overseeing the ballot counting. This is what Donald Trump was trying to tell you. He says they don't want any oversight. They don't want to be watched as they count ballots. They want to cover up the glass in the window so you can't see what's really going on with the counting of the votes, ladies and gentlemen. Fraud in them is going on right now. All right. Now, the whistleblower says that we were told to collect any ballot that we find in mailboxes, collection boxes, all right, for outgoing mail. At the end of the day, we are supposed to separate them from the standard letter mail so they can hand stamp them with yesterday's date and put them through the express mail system to get wherever they need to go, according to the whistleblower. All right. And then he added for clarification, today is the 4th of November. And he said, hand stamped it with the November 3rd's date. And he said, yes. That seems wrong. Yeah, that's why I'm coming forward with this information. That is a very shady, in addition to, so far as I'm aware, we're not supposed to be counting ballots that are postmarked after the 3rd of November here in the state of Michigan. The insider said he was shocked when Barlow Branch Morning Supervisor Jonathan Clark told a group of mail carriers how late ballots would be handled. Now you're giving a name and you're giving a location. You can't make this stuff up. Here it is right here. All right. There it is. The insider said there was a process set up for the post office workers involved in the bogus postmark scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Think about it. Now, according to Michigan election law, 168.764A, Step 6 requires ballots to be received by the election clerk before the close of the polls on election day, which is 8 p.m. in the state of Michigan. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Here it is for you. And what is anybody doing about it? Nothing, because there is nothing that they can do about it. They're showing you that you are powerless to stop them. They can rig an election. They can steal an election. They can hijack an election right before your eyes, and no one can do anything about it. President Trump's re-election campaign said they are filing a lawsuit in Nevada alleging that there were more than 10,000 ballots that were cast in the state by voters who don't even live in the state. Again, fraud. The Epic Times' Jack Phillips reports that the campaign in a Thursday news conference comes as Democratic presidential challenger Joe Biden has an approximately 8,000 vote lead over the president in Nevada. The state, which has 6 electoral college votes, could be a key in the outcome of the presidential race. Trump campaign Nevada chairman Adam Laxalt said there were examples of ballots mailed across this valley in trash cans. People getting as many as 18 ballots in the mail, saying that it is evidence of voter irregularity. I'm going to say voter fraud. We still have not been able to observe these signatures or meaningfully examine mail-in ballots out of hundreds of thousands of ballots cast. Laxalt, the former Nevada Attorney General, said in the news conference. He added there were dead voters that have been counted. All right. The Attorney General is testifying that this is a fact. It is a fact. What is anyone doing about it? Nathan. People, I don't hear nobody rioting over this. They not rioting. There's no one rioting over this. There's no riot. There's no protest. Where's Black Lives Matter? Where's Antifa now? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. They're supposed to be bringing down the United States. They have nothing to do with this. Meanwhile, he claimed thousands of people who have been counted have moved out of Clark County during the pandemic. Clark County includes Las Vegas, the state's largest city. As a result, he said Trump's team is seeking emergency relief and is stopped at the county of all these votes. Now, Rick Greenell, Trump's former acting director of national intelligence, told the conference, quote, "If you haven't been in the state for 30 days, it is illegal to vote. We are filing this lawsuit to protect legal voters," end quote. And guess what? You guessed it. Clark County hasn't responded to a request for comment. They have not responded to a request for comment. All right? I'm just saying. Now, during a conference call with reporters, Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien told reporters during a conference call that Trump was winning by roughly 200,000 votes in the Keystone State. Jason Miller, a top campaign spokesman, said during the call that it will be clear as soon as the end of Friday that Trump will serve another 4 years as president. Miller added that he expects additional legal action to ensure visibility on previously counted ballots. Miller also claimed that Trump is on pace to win Arizona and that even Nate Silver says Fox News and the Associated Press should rescind their call for Biden. Miller said additional legal moves, including Nevada, might come later on today. At the very least, Trump's GOP observers will be able to observe the counting of the ballots thanks to a decision from an appellate court in Pennsylvania. Georgia's Secretary of State, Raffensperger, is holding a briefing about Georgia's count. And this is sad, you guys, because, again, why is there no oversight of this whole process? The whole process should have oversight. You should have people there observing. Why not? Why can't you have people observing the count on both sides? You should be, I mean, seriously, if all this is being done above board, why can't you have, people from both sides counting the ballots? You have representatives for Trump, representatives for Biden, standing there, standing over people's shoulders as they count them ballots and recording everything, recording it all. Why can't the ballot counting be recorded? And why can't you have people standing there from both sides? Seriously. You got people from both camps standing there and it's being recorded. Banks do it. Banks record their tellers. Straight up, banks record their tellers. So why can't we record the ballot counting? What's the harm in that if there's no transgression occurring? Where's the harm in that? At least we can ensure that we're having a real election. With all of the chaos that we've had over these past couple decades, you're telling me that this thought never entered anyone's mind? I know. Why don't we have people from both sides oversee all of the votes counting in all 50 states and make it a law? You trying to tell me y'all couldn't pass a law that would benefit both parties? You could, all this time in office, going all the way back to when we had the 2000 election issue. They should have made it a law back then. They should have said, nope, federal law now. Since the states can't get it right, we have to have a member of both parties present at all ballot counting as far as mail-in ballots. That should have been a law. That way there can be no fraud. Okay? Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Facts are facts. Lawsuits have been filed, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. All right? Now, we got that issue out the way. This is a real issue, and it's not going away because they've allowed loopholes wide enough to allow these improprieties. So while we're on the topic, another question you got to ask yourself, I mean, just follow the money, right? Why does Biden have so many more votes than Democrat senators in swing states? In most elections, the majority of votes are cast down the ticket, meaning a voter supports both parties' presidential nominee and state congressional candidates, okay? In fact, according to Pew Research, overwhelming shares of voters who are supporting Trump and Biden say they are also supporting the same party candidate for Senate. Typically, this means that the number of votes for a presidential candidate and that party's Senate candidates are relatively close. Now, Twitter user US Rebel, however, found that the number of votes cast for the Joe Biden far exceeds those cast for the state Senate candidates in swing states, while those cast for Trump and GOP senators remains far closer. Again, the impropriety. In Michigan, for example, there was a difference of just 7,131 votes between Trump and GOP candidate John James. Yet the difference between Joe Biden and Democratic candidate Gary Peters was a staggering 69,093 votes. In Georgia, there was an 818 vote difference between Trump and the GOP senator versus a 95,000 difference between Biden and the Democratic candidate for senator. All right, did you not think that people would see this? When you account for third-party votes, seems like tens of thousands of mysterious Biden votes with no down ticket votes. Rigging an election. In Georgia, it's even worse, where they're currently finding new Biden votes. Again, after counting for third-party vote, huge amount of mysterious Biden votes with no down ticket. Yet in two non-swing states, there was no massive flood of mysterious empty Biden votes, leading U.S. Rebel to suggest it's fraud. In Wyoming, the difference on the Democratic side is just 725 votes, while in Montana, the difference is 27,457. For comparison, check out a non-swing state like Wyoming. Trump, 193,454. GOP Senate, 197,961. The difference is 4,507 votes. Biden, on the other hand, has 73,445. The Democratic senator has 72,720. The difference is 725. No massive flood of mysterious empty Biden votes. It's fraud. The Democrats are committing voter fraud in the swing states, and no one is doing anything about it. You're not even hearing this discussed in the mainstream media. Where's the debate on this? See, there's the problem when you cheat. There are things that you can't possibly remember or account for. They didn't think about this. They didn't think about this red flag that would show up. Okay? Think about it. In the swing states, we got fraud. What's going on here? If it were never Trumpers pairing Biden with their GOP congressional picks, if so, we would expect fewer votes for Trump than GOP senators. Does anyone want to have an open debate on this one? Where's the open discussion? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Let's deal with this. How about after the election? Let's talk about some hard truths with that one. Okay? Here's a quote from your boy. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. That's a quote from your boy George Orwell. Okay? Unfortunately, the American people remain persuaded that a new president in the White House can solve the problems that plague the American empire. Yet no matter who wins this presidential election, you can rest assured that the new boss will be the same as the old boss. And we, the permanent underclass in America, will continue to be forced to march in lockstep with the police state in all matters, public and private. Indeed, if it really doesn't matter what you call them, the deep state, the number 1%, the elite, the controllers, the masterminds, the shadow government, the police state, the surveillance state, the military industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, so long as you understand that no matter which party occupies the White House in 2021, the unelected bureaucracy that actually calls the shots will continue to do so. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Now, in the interest of liberty and truth, here are a few hard truths about life in the American police state that will persist no matter who wins the 2020 presidential election. Indeed, these issues persisted and in many cases flourished under both Republican and Democratic administrations in the past few decades. How about the police militarization? Yeah, it's going to continue. Thanks to federal grant programs allowing the Pentagon to transfer surplus military supplies and weapons to local law enforcement agencies without charge, police forces will continue to be transformed from peace officers to heavily armed extensions of the military, complete with jackboots, helmets, shields, batons, pepper spray, stun guns, assault rifles, body armor, miniature tanks, and weaponized drones. And I can tell you, that pepper spray is no joke. Yeah, I went through a training exercise and had to endure that. And it was the hottest brand on the market. Man, that stuff stung me for a week straight. No matter how many showers I took. A 1 week straight, you guys, a week of burning until that stuff finally went away. It's no joke. Now, today, 17,000 local police forces are equipped with such military equipment as Black Hawk helicopters, machine guns, grenade launchers, battering rams, explosive, chemical sprays, body armor, night vision, repelling gear, and armored vehicles, stated Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. Some even have tanks. Now, you got to ask yourself, they've been preparing for the civil unrest for a long time. And the messed up part is that they're using paid bad actors, i.e. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, to set everything off. All this weaponry is for you, the citizens. Like I told you, once they're done using you, Black Lives Matters and Antifas, they're coming for you. They're going to round every single last one of you up. So just be ready for that. And they're going to pretend like they don't know you. We never hired you. You are a terrorist organization that must be put down. How about the over-criminalization of everything that will continue? Do you know how many tens of thousands of crimes on the books have been elevated from misdemeanors to felonies just so they could fulfill their bed count in these jails, especially the private jails, where they make you pay for your incarceration. Every day that you are locked up, you have to pay for it like you're in a hotel. That's right. And then once you are released, if you don't pay the bill, you're rearrested again. That's right. All-out war has been declared against the poor. In the face of a government bureaucracy consumed with churning out laws, statutes, codes, and regulations that reinforce its power and takes from yours and mine, and value systems and those of the police state and its corporate allies, who will all continue to be viewed as petty criminals guilty of violating some random minor law. According to statistics, the average American breaks like 10 felonies, 10 laws a day, something ridiculous like that. You commit multiple felonies a day without realizing it, according to them. Thanks to an overabundance of 4,500 plus federal crimes and 400,000 plus rules and regulations, it is estimated that the average American actually commits 3 felonies a day without even knowing it. You're supposed to know about 4,500 federal crimes, and you're supposed to be aware of 400,000 plus rules in addition to that? Really? Well, according to law professor John Baker, there is no one in the United States over the age of 18 who cannot be indicted for some federal crime. You don't hear that on TV. They're not talking about that in the mainstream media. Think about it. There's no one over the age of 18 that cannot be indicted for some federal crime. Consequently, we now find ourselves operating in a strange new world where small farmers who dare to make unpasteurized goat cheese and share it with members of their community are finding their farms raided, while home gardeners face jail time for daring to cultivate their own varieties of orchids without having completed sufficient paperwork, meaning you have to get permission to do anything in America. You need permission from either or your federal government and your state and local government. You need permission to do anything in America. You are not free. This is not land of the free. Not when you need permission to do anything. Now, of course, they have become very, very sophisticated in how they go about doing this to you. They don't call it permission. They call it a license. What is a license? A tax. What is a tax? Extortion. You need permission, and you have to allow them to extort money from you in order to do anything in this country. This is a frightening state of affairs, people. Wake up. Where a person can actually be arrested and incarcerated for the most innocent of inane activities, including feeding a well and collecting rainwater on their own property. It's due to what law scholars refer to as over-criminalization. Remember, I started off this live today explaining to you that our legal system is corrupt. Prove me wrong. You can't. You won't be able to. How about jailing Americans for profit will continue? At one time, the American penal system operated under the idea that dangerous criminals needed to be put under lock and key in order to protect society. Today, however, as states attempt to save money by outsourcing prisons to private corporations, that's why we call it the prison industrial complex, now imprisoning Americans in private prisons run by mega corporations has turned into a cash cow for big business. Now, in exchange for corporations buying and managing public prisons across the country as a supposed savings to the states, The states have to agree to maintain a 90% occupancy rate in the privately run prisons for at least 20 years. Such a scheme simply encourages incarceration for the sake of profits while causing millions of Americans, most of them minor, non-violent criminals, to be handed over to corporations for lengthy prison sentences which do nothing to protect society or prevent recidivism. Thus, although the number of violent crimes in the country is down substantially, the number of Americans being jailed for nonviolent crimes, such as driving with a suspended license, is skyrocketing. They want to put a jacket on you for driving with a suspended license, which labels you a criminal for the rest of your natural life. Now you got to walk around that scarlet letter. You won't be able to get a job. You won't be able to vote. You lose all of your civil rights. And no one will hire you. Why? Because you had to get to work and you was driving with a suspended license. Because you had to get to work. You see where I'm going with this? And no one is outraged. Where's Black Lives Matter on this issue? On the imprisonment of Black people. You don't hear them talk about Black people when it comes to the prison industrial complex. Why aren't they looting and revolting against that? Why aren't they trying to bring down the penal system? Bring this down. Revamp the judicial system. Why aren't they doing anything about that? I don't hear no outcry about that. This affects them more than the police brutality that they talk about every day. You can be found guilty, indicted on the pettiest of violations, such as driving without a license. There are many men in prison, Black and Latino, in prison for driving on a suspended license or driving with no license. That's right. Where are they? Another thing you got to prepare yourself for after this election that will continue, no matter who gets in the office, is that poverty will continue. Despite the fact that we have 46 million Americans living at or below the poverty line and over 50 million people out of work, 16 million children living in households without adequate access to food, and at least 900,000 veterans relying on food stamps. Mind you, these are pre-COVID numbers, 2019 numbers, folks, which have only gotten worse during the pandemic. Enormous sums continue to be doled out for presidential excursions. Taxpayers have been forced to pay at least $100 million so that Donald Trump could visit his golf clubs and private properties more than 500 times during his 4 years in office. And the same thing happened with Obama. The same thing happened with Clinton. The same thing happened with Bush 1 and 2, and on and on and on, etc., etc., etc. Well, prepare yourself, folks, because no matter who you voted for, you can guarantee that endless wars that enrich the military-industrial complex will also continue. Having been co-opted by greedy defense contractors, corrupt politicians, and incompetent government officials, America's expanding military empire is bleeding the country dry at a rate of more than $15 billion a month. Not a year, a month. If you want to break that down, that's $20 million an hour. And that's just what the government spends on foreign wars. That does not include the cost of maintaining and staffing the 1,000+ U.S. military bases spread around the globe, including black sites. Incredibly, although the U.S. constitutes only 5% of the world's population, America boasts almost 50% of the world's total military expenditure, spending more on the military than the next 19 biggest nations combined. In fact, the Pentagon spends more on war than all 50 states combined spend on health care, on education, on welfare, and on safety. Yet what most Americans fail to recognize is that these ongoing wars have little to do with keeping the U.S. country safe and everything to do with enriching the military-industrial complex at taxpayer expense. Consider that since 2001, Americans have spent $10.5 million every hour for numerous foreign military occupations, including in Iraq and Afghanistan. Again, facts, truths, facts. We're marrying truth and facts this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Prove me wrong if you can, with facts. Debunk any fact that I presented to you this morning, if you can. How about you can expect police shootings of unarmed Americans to continue? You see, it's not just black and brown people being shot. White people getting shot by police too. How many of you, raise your hand, have seen the numerous videos of elderly women and men being body slammed to the ground by police, manhandled and roughed up by police? Elderly people. There's no shortage of those videos. Okay? Police shootings of unarmed Americans will continue. Notice unarmed Americans. I said unarmed. You don't have a knife. You don't have a gun. You don't have a club. You don't have a bat. You don't have a stick. No matter what our party politics, nationality, religion, or any other distinction used to divide us, we all suffer when violence becomes the government's calling card. Remember, in a police state, you're either the one with your hand on the trigger or you're staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. At least 400 to 500 innocent people are killed by police officers every day. Indeed, Americans are now 8 times more likely to die in a police confrontation than they are to be killed by a terrorist. Americans are 110 times more likely to die of foodborne illness than in a terrorist attack. Police officers are more likely to be struck by lightning than be made financially liable for their wrongdoing. Now, as a result, Americans are largely powerless in the face of a militarized police state. That's right. We're powerless. There's nothing you can do. Oh, and to boot, they want to take your guns away, because then it makes it easier for them to do their job of killing you. What else can you expect after this election, regardless of who wins the White House? You can expect SWAT team raids will also continue. More than 80,000 SWAT team raids are carried out every year on unsuspecting Americans for relatively routine police matters. Nationwide SWAT teams have been employed to address an astonishing, trivial array of criminal activity or mere community nuisances, including angry dogs. That's right, a SWAT team raid for angry dogs, SWAT team raids for domestic disputes, SWAT team raids for improper paperwork filed by an orchid farmer, a SWAT team raid for a farmer that grows flowers. You're being SWAT team for an orchid? Being SWAT team for a misdemeanor marijuana possession? SWAT team for smoking a joint? For rolling a blunt? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. On the average day in America, over 100 Americans have their homes raided by SWAT teams. 100 raids a day. There has been a notable buildup in recent years of SWAT teams within non-security related federal agencies, such as the Department of Agriculture, the Railroad Retirement Board, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Office of Personnel Management, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Education Department. Education department, yeah, that's some education for you being swatted. Why do those departments need to have non-security related federal agency? They don't. They don't. That's like giving a hatchet or machete to the candy striper nurse in the children's ward. Here, Nurse Betty, here's your machete. Remember, you sign in and sign these out at the end of your shift, okay? Here's your machete. Can you imagine? Do you think Americans will be disgusted then when you go to the children cancer ward at your local hospital and see the candy stripers walking around with machetes and a Jason Voorhees mask at a children's cancer ward? You think they'll be shocked? No, they wouldn't. Americans wouldn't be shocked. They say, hey, you got to keep our nurses safe. You never know with these sick cancer kids. You never know when one may just, leap out of the bed after getting cancer treatment and bite the nurse on the neck. You never know. You never know. You see, the government's war on the American people sadly will also continue after the election. Doesn't matter if Biden's in the White House or Trump. We, the people, are no longer shielded by the rule of law. While the First Amendment, which gives us a voice, is being muzzled, the Fourth Amendment, which protects us from being bullied, badgered, beaten, broken, and spied on by the government agents, is also being disemboweled by the candy striper nurses at the children's cancer ward in your hospital. They have machetes, so they're doing all the disembowing of our inalienable rights right now. Consequently, you no longer have to be poor, black, or guilty to be treated like a criminal in America. All you have to do is wake up in the morning. All that is required is that you belong to the suspect class, that is, the citizenry of the American police state. As a de facto member of this so-called criminal class, every U.S. citizen is now guilty until proven innocent. They double dog dare you to prove a negative in a court of law. The oppression and injustice, be it in the form of shooting, surveillance, fines, asset forfeiture, prison terms, roadside searches, and so on, will come to all of us eventually unless we do something to stop it now. I ain't gonna front. I'm concerned every time I leave my house, even every time I go to the store. I'm not afraid of Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters or the Ku Klux Klan. I feel more comfortable around them. It's the police I'm concerned about. Because do you know that by law, you can be arrested at every traffic stop? Let me repeat that. You can be arrested at every routine traffic stop without even committing a crime. They have a right to arrest you, book you, process you, and hold you for, was it 48 or 72 hours? I think it's 72 hours. Without charge. Don't have to even give you a charge, tell you nothing. Just hold you for 3 days just because they feel like it. Maybe that officer was having a bad day. And you were the unlucky person he pulled over. And he pulled you over because he says you were speeding even though you weren't. Even though you weren't. Doesn't matter. In a court of law, the officer is considered the Pope. And you are considered a sinner. They will always take the officer's word over you 100% of the time. That's why people have been filming police like crazy now, because that's the only thing they have to defend themselves with in a court of law, if they can make it to court. Every time a police pulls you over, you can be arrested and they can hold you for up to 72 hours. They got to let you go after that, but they can still arrest you. That's the law. They can hold you for up to 72 hours with no charges. You're just on your way to work, on your way home, and they can say, you know what? I feel that I need to disrupt your life for the next 3 days. So that's what they do. Arrest you on a Friday, you ain't going before a judge until Monday. And by then, they'll release you on your own recognizance and still make you pay a fine. It's extortion. It's extortion. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And because we just learned this morning that the average American commits about 3 felonies a day, They can find something. They can find something. And if you're poor, guess what? You're not going home. You can't afford the bond. You can't afford anything. It's really messed up. Think about it. The police can pull you over, arrest you, charge you with a crime. Then it's up to you to prove your innocence. You will not be released unless you pay them a bribe. Bonding your way out of jail is a bribe. It's an extortion. They say, if you want to get out from under these bars, I need you to run me some money real quick. Bond yourself out. But I don't have any money. Oh, well, I guess you got to stay here for the next 3 days. And if they're charging you with a felony and you can't afford anything but a public defender, you know what's going to happen? You're going to prison. You're going to prison. You're going to prison. If they're hitting you with a felony, you're going to prison. There's nothing you can do about it. What do public defenders do? They plead out. They plead out. They don't go to trial. They plead out. Just admit you're wrong, and they agree that they're not going to give you time. They'll give you time served, but you will have a felony on your record, but at least you'll be able to go home. You see the extortion cycle, ladies and gentlemen? Another thing that will continue, regardless of who wins the White House, ladies and gentlemen, is that government corruption will continue. It will continue. Government corruption will continue. The government is not our friend, nor does it work for we the people. Americans instinctively understand this. When asked to name the greatest problem facing the nation, most Americans of all political stripes ranked the government as the number one concern. In fact, almost 8 out of 10 Americans believe that government corruption is widespread. Our so-called government representatives do not actually represent us, the citizenry. They work for their masters, their corporate masters. What do you call the merger of corporate and government? You call it fascism. That's what we've been living under tyranny for decades now. We are now ruled by an oligarch elite of government and corporate interests whose main interest it is perpetuating power and control. Congress is dominated by a majority of millionaires and even a couple of billionaires who are on average 14 times wealthier than the average American, and they leave even more wealthier when they leave office. They leave more wealthier and with more connections. Why do you think Al Gore was able to go and become a partner at some huge hedge fund, private equity fund, making $100 million a year? To my recollection, he never worked on Wall Street. To my recollection, he didn't have a degree in finance or economics. How did he get such a place of authority and power and position? It's because of what he knew and what he did when he was in office. Another thing that you know will continue, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, and it's about to get a lot worse, is the rise of the surveillance state. Government eyes are watching you, ladies and gentlemen. They see your every move. The government knows what you read. The government knows how much money you spend. The government knows where you go and where you've been and with whom you've interacted. They know when you wake up in the morning, literally. They know what you're watching on television. They know what you're reading on the internet. Every move you make is being monitored, mined for data, crunched, and tabulated in order to form a picture of who you are, what makes you tick, and how best to control you when and if it becomes necessary to bring you in line. Police have been outfitted with a litany of surveillance gear, from license plate readers and cell phone tracking devices to biometric data recorders. Technology now makes it possible for the police to scan passerby in order to detect the contents of their pockets, purses, briefcases, etc. Let me say that again, because maybe that went over your head. All right? Think about what I just said to you. There's technology now in existence and already in the hands of some police departments that make it possible for the police to scan passerbys, not in vehicles. We're talking about people who walk by. They can scan passerbys in order to detect the contents of your pocket, the contents of your purse, the contents of your briefcase. They have full body scanners which perform virtual strip searches of Americans traveling by plane that have gone mobile with roving police vans that peer into vehicles and buildings alike, including homes. Coupled with the nation's growing network of real-time surveillance cameras and facial recognition software, soon there really will be nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, literally. Straight up. Think about it. What else can we expect post-election to continue, no matter who's in office? The erection of a suspect society will continue, due in large part to rapid advances in technology and a heightened surveillance culture. The burden of proof has been shifted so that the right to be considered innocent until proven guilty has been usurped by a new normal in which all citizens are now suspects. You have to now prove your innocence. You have to prove a negative in court. This is exemplified by the police practices of stopping and frisking people who are merely walking down the street and where there is no evidence of wrongdoing. Making matters worse are terrorism liaison officers, firefighters, police officers, and even corporate employees who have been trained to spy on their fellow citizens and report suspicious activity, which includes taking pictures with no apparent aesthetic value, making measurements and drawings, taking notes, conversing in code, espousing radical beliefs, and buying items in bulk. Buying items in bulk. So I guess that's going to make it hard for people who shop at Sam's Club and places like that, BJ's or wherever else. TLOs report back to fusion centers, which are a driving force behind the government's quest to collect, analyze, and disseminate information on American citizens. You have now become big data to big business. What else can we expect to continue, even if Biden or Trump win the election? You can expect government tyranny under the reign of an imperial president to continue. The Constitution invests the president with very specific, limited powers to serve as commander-in-chief of the military, grant pardons, make treaties with the approval of Congress, appoint ambassadors and federal judges, again with Congress's blessing, and veto legislation. In recent years, however, American presidents have anointed themselves with the power to wage war, unilaterally kill Americans, torture prisoners, strip citizens of their rights, arrest and detain citizens indefinitely, carry out warrantless spying on Americans, and erect their own secretive shadow government. The powers amassed by each past president and inherited by each successive president, powers which add up to a toolbox of terror for an imperial ruler, empower whomever occupies the Oval Office to act as a dictator, to be above the law and beyond any real accountability. The grim reality we must come in terms with is the fact that the government does whatever it wants. More than terrorism, more than domestic terrorism, more than gun violence and organized crime, the U.S. government has become a greater menace to the life, liberty, and property of its citizens than any of the so-called dangers from which the government claims to protect us from. This state of affairs has become the status quo no matter which party is in power. What else can we expect to continue regardless of which party wins the White House? You can expect the government's manipulation of national crises in order to expand its powers will most certainly and indefinitely continue. We, the people, have been subjected to an emergency state that justifies all manner of government tyranny and power grabs in the so-called name of national security. Whatever the so-called threat to the nation, whatever its civil unrest, school shootings, alleged acts of terrorism, or the threat of global pandemics in the case of COVID-19, the government has a tendency to capitalize on the nation's heightened emotions, confusion, and fear as a means of extending the reach of the police state. Indeed, the government's answer to every problem continues to be more government at taxpayer expense and less individual liberty. Freedom, what's that? The bottom line is this: nothing taking place on election day will alleviate the suffering of the American people. Unless we do something more than vote, the government, as we have come to know it, corrupt to its core, bloated and controlled by big money corporations, lobbyists, and special interest groups, will remain unchanged. And we, the people, overtaxed, over-policed, overburdened by big government, underrepresented by those who should speak for us, and blissfully ignorant of the prison walls closing in on us, will continue to trudge along a path of misery. These problems will continue to plague our nation unless and until Americans wake up to the fact that they're the only ones who can change things for the better and then do something about it immediately. If there's to be any hope of restoring our freedoms and reclaiming control over our government, it will rest not with the politicians, but with we the people. All right. The Constitution opens with the words, we the people. What the founders wanted us to understand is that we are the government. There's no government without us. Our sheer numbers, our muscle, our economy, our physical presence in this country. There can also be no police state, no tyranny, no routine violations of our rights without our complicity and collusion, without our turning a blind eye, shrugging our shoulders, allowing ourselves to be distracted and our civic awareness diluted. No matter which candidate wins this election, the citizenry and those who represent us need to be held accountable to this powerful truth. I warned you guys back last year when I saw something shady going on at the local hospital. And then come to find out a few months later, boom, COVID. They planned this, and they planned it good a year in advance. And we just fell for it. We just let that happen. We let it happen. Wake up, people. That's all I got to tell y'all, man. So I presented to you the facts surrounding this election. We got election fraud going on. Let's see if the people are bold enough to do anything about it. Because right now, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if the people have the will to do something about it or not. I don't know. I don't know. So we'll see what the people can do here. All right, you guys. I hope everyone has a great weekend. We had a wonderful week at PulseWave Trading. Sorry for the ones that missed it. You guys missed some dope movements in the market, some nice trading. We're able to get in on some wonderful opportunities. And it was just dope. And I believe that as the days and weeks move on, that we're going to have more opportunity to do the same. I really just see amazing opportunities here in the short term. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. It's definitely on and crack-a-lacking up in here, y'all. All right, so remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I'm out. Peace.